Last year, I had the dubious honour of reviewing Shane Abbas's Infamy for filmwork.co.uk. It's a space marine yawn fest. I'll put a link to my original article in the description, but let's just say no. Familiarity breeds contempt, particularly when it comes to things like survival horror or survival sci-fi. We've seen these stories so many times. A confident crew will be sent to a derelict space station, or in the case of Ian Truitner's Teleios, an abandoned mining vessel called the Atromitos. They show up, they find themselves in a world of hurt and horror and sole survivors who have spent far too long without proper sanitation. The difference here between Infamy and Teleios is that Teleios is able to skip over these cliches like a stone. It plays to its primary strength, which is its cast, and it's also economical with its imagery and world building. A lot of this is a consequence of the resources available to Truitner and his crew. The film was made for roughly $1 million and it does show. You can point out that films like Aliens are also made on sound stages, but Teleios definitely looks like it. It's an unfortunate consequence of low budget sci-fi that in trying to create a bright, shiny new future, you're ultimately just going to expose the limitations of your present. But as I say, Teleios works because of its cast. Teleios is a character piece through and through, interspersed with the occasional fight scene and quite a bit of techno babble. It also quite cleverly introduces a lot of tension quite subtly from the beginning. As soon as they arrive on the Atromitos, various mental and physical and emotional stresses begin to set in, and the unthinkable happens. They begin to turn on one another. I'm trying not to give too much away because there are quite a few intricate plot threads in Teleios, and I don't want to tug on any of them too hard. What I will say is that there is an inherent charisma to every member of the Teleios' crew, and it really helps illustrate the degradation they're going through more confidently. Shannon Jenkins is wonderfully unsettling as Dr. Orson, a physician who decides that whole Hippocratic Oath thing is kind of overrated. Zimmer and Anderson, played by modern Adonis TJ Hoban and actress Christian Pitre, fall into a compulsive and passionate love affair, much to the annoyance of their chiseled commanding officer, played by Broadway. The wonderfully named Weetus Cren is superb as the monosyllabic and deceptive survivor of the Atromitos tragedy. He's also in a relationship with a maintenance droid called Lulu. Lulu's played by an actress called Ursula Mills. She has very few credits to her name, but I really hope we see more of her. Lulu is quite a stereotypical gynoid. She talks in sharp responses, she has very stilted movements, but Truitner and Mills are to be congratulated because they're still able to craft quite a compelling character out of her. Lulu may be up there, but she's not the ace in Teleios' whole. That distinction goes to Sunny Mabrey as the ship's XO, Iris Duncan. She has a degree in psychology, which means she's tasked with breaking through to Cren to find out what he actually knows about the Atromitos. Through Duncan, Mabrey has to go through quite the emotional range, particularly because she's having to face her own mortality, while at the same time trying to uncover what happened to the crew of the Atromitos. She has to be a officer, a counsellor, the voice of reason, a hard-ass, a sleuth. It requires a lot of subtlety, and Mabrey pulls it off expertly. Ultimately, Teleios isn't going to reinvent anything, but it's an entertaining and thought-provoking little ditty, and it's well worth checking out if it crosses your path. The plot does stumble at points, particularly towards the end when one critical moment becomes too much of a deus ex machina. But ultimately, this film is incredibly impressive given its means, and I'm hoping that it's going to provide a launch pad for the ambitions of everyone involved.